Greetings from Cybertron. This is SoundJack here with another episode of SoundJack's Rambles. And today I am here with Alyssa again.
Yeah.
She's very popular on this channel, it seems.
Yeah, I am.
Totally
I
not
am.
because we're totally not dating or anything. That's totally
No.
not the reason why you're on here so much.
No, not at all. It's
Not at
definitely not the reason.
No?
It's some other extraneous reason. Over there.
Oh, absolutely. But today we are here to talk about a show that Alyssa is really into and has introduced me to, and that would be Miraculous Ladybug.
Yeah! Its official title is Miraculous: Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir, but Miraculous Ladybug is like what most people call it. Fun fact. Hey, look! Come on. I'm doing my job here.
Yes, you are. And yeah, so this is a very fun show that I do very much enjoy. But Alyssa, can you give us a very brief summary of what this show is about?
Sure. So basically, Miraculous Ladybug is a French/South Korean/Japanese show. It's French in the sense that it's produced by a company known as Zag Studios, which is hosted in France, and it's co-created by Jeremy Zag and Thomas Sestrou. It has a C at the end, but you don't pronounce it because French. And it's also South Korean because that's where the animation is done, and it's also Japanese in the sense that it takes from anime. And basically the premise is it revolves around two main characters, which are Marinette Dupeng Cheng, who is a French-Chinese person, so she's half French, half Chinese, and she's also a superhero by the name of Ladybug. And her superhero-ness is sort of like akin to magical girl transformations in that she has magic earrings that host her kwami named Tiki, and then by saying the special words, she transforms into Ladybug and fights crime. And she also happens to have a crush on a guy who is in her class named Adrian Agreste, and he's a model for his father. And Marinette's an aspiring fashion designer, so that's also a thing. And unbeknownst to Marinette, her crush also happens to be another superhero who is her annoying/cocky/flirtatious sidekick, Cat Noir, or Chat Noir in French, which translates to Black Cat. And he transforms with the ring with his Kwame Plag. And he has a crush on Ladybug. So it's this big, what they call in the fandom, love square, where one of them is they're both in love with each other, but they don't know it. And their goal is to fight crime and stop the evil Hawkmoth, who is another person who has a jewel that transforms him into a superhero. And I believe his French name is Papillon, which means butterfly. And he basically corrupts butterflies. I know that sounds super threatening, but corrupts butterflies into Akuma, which are like these evil butterflies who infect people who have strong negative emotions, and then he essentially turns them into supervillains who then go after Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculouses, which are the jewelry that I mentioned. So Cat Noir's ring and Ladybug's earrings. And he's trying to get them to amass a lot of power. And that's basically the premise. It's like, the way I would put it is that it's a superhero anime kids show. It sort of takes an episodic Monster of the Week formula, where like all the episodes are very formulaic, essentially. And yeah, I believe that's it. I don't know if I missed anything. Michael, you can let me know.
I think you got all the big bits before we get into any real spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But the reason why we're talking about it right now is that season 1 has been out for a while, But season 2 is getting ready to premiere in the United States sometime in December. We're not exactly sure when, but sometime in the month of December, it will premiere and it will be on Netflix.
Yes, you can. For those of you who want to watch the first season, that's also on Netflix. However, if you're one of those people who are like but the only language that's on Netflix is English. If you want to watch in the original French, I would also like to plug the Tumblr Miraculous subs, and they do great subtitles of all of the original French episodes. So if you want to see that, head on over there. I believe they have a Discord that has access to a spreadsheet, which has access to their subs. But just go to that Tumblr and you can find some high quality subs if you're one of those people who wants to watch it in the original French.
But on to the topic of why we're talking about it now. While season 2 is not coming until sometime December, we are still talking about this in November. We got a couple of weeks until December hits. Well, the week can change by the time this episode goes up.
Mm-hmm.
But the main reason we were talking about it now rather than a bit closer is because while it'd be premiering in the US, it started premiering in other countries already. With a couple of the countries that have already been showing it have been showing off English dubs of it already. So those are out there in the wild. And personally, I do want to kind of watch those dubs and then rewatch them all when they come on Netflix.
Yeah, so I guess I'll say my piece about if you're one of those people who does not want to wait until it comes out on Netflix, or you don't have a Netflix account and don't want to spend the money, I would highly recommend checking out the Miraculous Ladybug subreddit. That's our Miraculous Ladybug. And if you go there, and they have all of the episodes that have already premiered, which so far is episodes 1 through 6. The English dubbed, has only been released up to 5, but there have been 6 episodes released in French. I think the English dub for episode 6 should be out by the day we're recording this weekend, the weekend of the 18th. But so by the time this comes out, that should already be out. But at the time of this recording, it is not out yet. But hopefully by the time this comes out, that will already be available. But all you really got to do is just go to the subreddit and type, the episode name, and then it should show up as a discussion thing. You should be able to find the English dubs as they become available, and they're typically on like Mega Upload or VK or whatever sharing hosting site they have. So if you're not opposed to watching it slightly illegally, that would be the best venue to go, or at least the one that I've found. But if there are other venues out there, feel free to leave them in the comments as well.
Yes, but we do have to clarify, in our discussions, we won't be talking about anything that happened in season 2.
No.
This is strictly season 1. This is strictly anything that would be easily accessible to a US viewer through legal channels.
Yes.
But there are still spoilers for season 1. So we're going to just quickly, we've got a couple more questions before we actually hit spoiler territory. Mm-hmm. But there will be most of this will be spoilers, so do note that. But before we get into that territory, let's talk about how we found it. Alyssa, how did you find out about this show?
So I remember I saw not concept art, but I remember I saw some promotional material floating around Tumblr when it came out back in 2014, 2015. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, cool, a French superhero anime kind of thing. That's interesting. I didn't really look too far into it. I thought Ladybug's design was really interesting, and I thought that Cat Noir's design was really interesting, but I didn't, investigate it. It wasn't until last year when one of my friends from college, who I was rooming with at the time of the summer, was watching it, watching the English dub. And I was like, oh, what's this? And she said, oh, it's this show that I watched. It's really cool. You should watch it. And I was like, okay. So I watched it, and I was really interested in it. And then and then that's how I got into it. And then now I've been keeping up with it pretty consistently.
As for me, Alyssa was the primary recommender of this show to me.
You're welcome.
Yep, because she knew season 2 was coming out, and she figured now would be a good time for me to get into it, and figured it would also be good content for us to discuss on this channel. Though I've been, I do think I recall one of my friends from back home might have mentioned to me at one point, and I just forgot about it.
Oh, really?
I think. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, I know that friend of mine does watch my videos, and if she did actually recommend to me, she would definitely watch this, and she will tell me that she did in fact recommend it to me at point. So you know who you are out there. Did you actually recommend it to me at some point a while ago? Because I feel like you did.
Okay, well,
but you.
Yeah. It was the stars were aligned for you to eventually watch this show.
Yes. And one more question before we get into talking about the nitty-gritty stuff of the show. Do we recommend it?
I say yes. I definitely recommend Miraculous Ladybug. I will say the first season is a bit more like a pilot season. Like I said before, it's episodic, and it's also it's very much a children's show. You know, it has sort of it kind of has that sort of lesson that the characters learn by the end kind of taste to it. But I think that if you've watched stuff like Sailor Moon, you probably will find things to enjoy about it. I think that the show has a lot of intrigue in it, in the sense that it definitely has a lore and a story it wants to tell. And there's just a lot of potential to it. And I also think that for a kid's show, it has like a lot of funny things. I don't know. There's a lot of funny stuff, and you can tell that the creators put a lot of heart into it. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely would recommend it if you're not opposed to a little bit of light. Like, it's definitely not like there's not a lot of like deep drama, you know. Like there's not a lot of complex storylines or story plots. But if you're into like that sort of simple, lighthearted fun that also is of the superhero anime variety, then this one would definitely be one to check out. Yeah, so I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, same here. I honestly don't have much more to say different than Alyssa has already had. I very much enjoy the show. It is very much a cartoon superhero show with flavors of magical girl anime in it. But especially if you're into either of those, I'd say if you're into either of those things, I think this would be a good show for you. Yeah. And yeah, and my personal intrigue into it, there is a lot of very interesting lore that revolves around the characters and how they have their powers. And I think now is the time to get into that kind of territory, talking about the bigger details of the show. Yes. So if you have not watched it, you have been warned.
You have been warned multiple times.
Yes, you have no excuses. But yeah, so, all right, let's start this off by talking about our favorite characters, and starting with the main characters.
There's only like 2.
So, yeah, I was gonna say
maybe 3 if you count Hawkmoth.
I'd give Ollie a main character status.
Okay, I guess
I'd give her.
Yeah.
And Chloe is like a high tier secondary character at the very least.
Yeah, I would say that the definite main characters are Marinette, Adrian, and Hawkmoth. Like, those are the 3 ones, because they show up in pretty much every episode. So
yeah.
But anyway, do you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
I'll start, okay, because you have started on the past couple of questions, so I'll take this one first. So for me, definitely my favorite in this show my favorite main character would have to be Ladybug. She's got that nice mix of awkward actual person and really got it together superhero that I really like. she's the kind of character that like she is the main character of the show, but like but I think a lot of people that would be watching the show would relate a lot to her. Because like we're so quirky, we're so awkward in real life, but we are still also able to do these amazing things that Ladybug is capable of doing, and I do very much like that about her. Very in her technical mind, her analytical mind, her very strong charisma in all things, her headstrong attitude, not headstrong, but like
her like courage. Her stubbornness.
Thinking about like her I guess her her leadership, her resolve, I think, is more what I'm going for.
Okay.
And again, very much like that about her. I will say I was a tad with her whole love thing with Adrian. I think it was a little excessive in the earlier episodes of the season. But they did tone that down as the season progressed, and I'm like, okay, I like this a lot better. This is more reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, there was that.
Also, in terms of, gotta briefly mention in terms of what we consider, what we're talking about in terms of episode order, is the original French airing on the channel TFOU.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like every country has their own channel listing, and with a couple countries having two different orders.
Yeah, the Netflix follows the release order that was done through Nickelodeon, because originally Nickelodeon had the distribution rights in the US. But I don't really find that order to be very chronologically sound, which is, I mean, like, this show isn't very chronological to begin with, but it just makes more sense to watch it in the original French order, especially since Origins, the two-part Origins episodes, are meant to be shown at the very end of the season, but for some reason Nickelodeon decided to play it in the middle, which makes no sense, because a lot of the big moments that happen in that episode only really have that good weight after you've watched the whole season. So that's my soapbox.
Yeah, and and again, like she said, most of the episodes don't necessarily have a chronological order since it is an episodic series, but there are a couple of episodes that are more important to be in a certain order than others. Though the French ordering does have an error in one place, but that's it. For the most part, it's pretty well, one noticeable error in one place, but for the most part, it's pretty sound. So Alyssa, what would your favorite of the main characters be?
I mean, I think I like Marinette and Adrian pretty equally. I think they both have something interesting to offer. I have a soft spot for Cat Noir, mostly just because he's such a nerd. Oh my god, and I have such a soft spot for nerds. You can tell that he just doesn't know how to do things. What is socialization? What is flirting? I don't know. I've been locked up in my house for the past few years. My main source of social...
massive mansion house.
His mansion house. My only real ability to socialize has been gained through movies and TV and cartoons. So that's how I act around people. And I guess I really like the contrast between how Adrian acts and how Cat Noir acts. And I think it's really interesting when you think about them as the same person, that kind of arrogant, cocky, yet still, smart and sensitive guy can also be the reserved, very almost passive, guy in school. The fact that those exist in the same person is, I think, really fascinating. And I really hope that they put more of that aspect of Adrian's personality in season 2. I hope that Cat Noir's snarkiness and his cockiness show up a bit more in Adrian as the series progresses, because so far Adrian and Cat Noir have been kind of compartmentalized as two different characters in some senses, and I want to see them blend together a little bit more. Which to me would be the most fascinating thing. But I also really like Marinette too. I think that as the main character, she's great. I think that it's wonderful that she can be really selfish sometimes. Like she does some pretty crappy things to some people sometimes. I think how many
Yeah.
phones has she stolen in this show? Two
She's
phones, right? Yeah, 2
Mhm.
phones. Yeah, I mean you gotta do what you gotta do, right? You gotta steal those phones.
Yeah.
But I like how the main character, that she's flawed, and that just because she's the superhero who does the right thing in the end, she does make mistakes, and she does hurt people's feelings, and they don't brush off on that sometimes. Like so they'll call her out when she does something that she shouldn't have, which I like.
Yes. But since we were talking about those two characters, I think it's important to talk about their Kwame partners.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Tiki and Plague, since they are very important in the show, since they're like the reason why they have their superpowers in the first place.
Yes.
You
want me to talk about them?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I like both of them. I like how Tiki is sort of like Marinette's conscience. Like she sort of acts like a motherly person who like gives her advice and tells her to do the right thing and stuff like that, and encourages her and things like that. And you can definitely sense that they sort of have like a friend relationship too. They're very close, which I find really nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that Tiki's really, really cute too. Plague's really funny. I love how lazy he is, and I love how he just doesn't give a crap about anything except for cheese. And how he pretty much, for the most part, he's like,
except his camembert cheese.
Yep. And for the most part, he's just like, oh, I mean, I think even there's been some episodes where like there's some literal dangerous crap going on, and then like Flag's like, what's the rush? Like, okay, Flag. But I think that's also interesting to me too, that he's so lax, because as the Kwame of destruction, he probably doesn't really mind that much if things are getting destroyed. He's just like, whatever,
Yeah.
So I find it funny how his lazy attitude sort of was reflective of his powers of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really care, which is sort of antithetical to the idea of a superhero.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And unlike Tiki and Marinette, he does tend to clash with Adrian's personality a fair bit.
Oh yeah, definitely, because Adrian is the kind of dude who wants to do the right thing and is very eager to help other people. So it's interesting how Plague sort of works against Adrian.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that Plague doesn't like encourage him to do the right thing.
Yeah.
He's not like absolutely heartless or lazy, but he doesn't. It's interesting how they clash.
It is. It very is. Yeah. And what we know of their backstories at this point are also pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I never put it in the order of what to do with the lore for these characters.
Okay.
So I think we might as well talk about it right here of what we know, because the most of their backstory we did learn through the two-parter that was basically the superhero introduction, right?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Why don't you start, since your whole deal is lore? That's where you get all.
Okay.
That's where
right.
where you geek out. So you go geek out.
Yeah. All right. So and please correct me if I do make a mistake, since you are a bit more familiar with the show than I am.
Sure.
And for what we know from the show itself, from season 1 itself,
mm-hmm.
The Kwamis are creatures that are thousands upon thousands of years old, potentially much older.
Mm-hmm.
they have been known to exist throughout history. Our first instance of that being during the episode Pharaoh, when we learned that Ladybug was actually someone that existed in Egyptian times. But the most notable instance of the Kwame interaction with humans was in ancient China. It seems in China itself. From what we know in the show, there are at least 7 different Kwame. Though the most two powerful are the Kwame of Tiki and Plague, because they are opposites of each other, but they are basically they're yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time when they I did end up watching season 2, episode 1, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not saying something that we only know because of that. One of the there are 5 other ones, but one of them has fallen into the hands of a mysterious individual that we do not know of as of the end of season 1, though there are certainly suspicions.
Some very large, blaring, pointing neon arrows.
Yep. Yep. If you watch the show, you probably know who we're guessing is.
Yeah, probably. You probably know.
But regardless, they have the butterfly Kwame, known as Nuru, whose ability is to create other superheroes and to some extent control them. And that is where Hawkmoth got his power from, and how Hawkmoth is able to create supervillains that fight Ladybug and Cat Noir for their Miraculouses, since he would want them, since those are the 2 most powerful ones.
Yes. And the real kicker, though, is that when you get both of the Miraculouses, the Miraculous of Creation, which is the Ladybug earrings, and the Miraculous of Destruction, the ring of, which is the Black Cat ring, you essentially become a god and can then make a wish that comes true. And that's in the origin episode we find out that that's what Hawkmoth is after. He wants to make a wish.
Okay.
He wants to attain incredible power in order to make some wish that we don't know what exactly that wish is. We don't know. There are some guesses, but we don't know. Yeah. So that's a big thing. The Miraculouses that we know about so far, again, are the Ladybug, the Black Cat. There's the butterfly, which is what Hawkmoth has. There's the Turtle Miraculous, which is what Master Fu has. He is the current holder of that Miraculous, and Waze is his Kwame. We don't know much about
and is the one responsible for at the very least we know at this point he's responsible for passing out Marinette and Adrian's Miraculouses.
Yes, he's the one who gave them in the first place. And he's also called the Great Guardian by Tiki.
Yes.
And then the other Miraculouses that we know about but have not seen the Kwames of or know who they belong to are the Bee Miraculous and the Fox Miraculous, which are still in the box that Master Fu has with all the Miraculous.
Though we did get an idea. Though we did get an idea of how, kind of an idea of how the Fox Miraculous would look like because of the episode Volpina.
Yes. So yeah, yes, that's true. So it's likely if Volpina's powers are a copy of the Fox Miraculous's powers, and we can probably guess that the Volpina or the Fox Miraculous will have the power of illusions. Probably not to the same extent of Lila's illusions. Like, I'm sure her powers seem to be a little bit less constrained, but that was because she was akumatized.
Yes.
But
we know her. But we do know that her weapon is a flute.
Yes.
That much we know.
Yep.
Along with Ladybug's yo-yo and Cat Noir's staff.
Mm-hmm. And then the last Miraculous that we know about is the Peacock Miraculous, which is not with Master Fu, and we see it briefly in Gabriel Agrest's safe, which is Adrian Agrest's dad. He has it alongside like some other items that he has in his safe. Why he has it, we don't know, but he has it. Is the
he also had a big book about all of like Ladybug and Cat Noir and Volpina and all of them.
Yes, yes. There's that important book which Tiki was like, this is real important.
Really wanted.
We have to have it. So it's a pretty big deal. Which even is, again, why the hell does Gabriel Agrest have it? We have a couple theories, but but that's pretty much the lore as it stands right now. We, like I said, we haven't seen any of the only Miraculouses that we know about are the superheroes that we know about, and hopefully we'll see all of them soon. That would be really cool.
Yes, it absolutely would be. But yeah, I think we touched on enough of the lore for this.
Okay.
But let's move on to another group of characters, the minor characters, who...
There's a lot of them,
there are
actually.
plenty of in this show, since pretty much, well, not every single person, but a lot of the people that have received recurring roles in this show have been akumatized.
Yes.
Into supervillains. But let's save that for a different category of which of our favorite villains.
Yes.
For our favorite villains, and just focus on the minor characters, because they, like I said, do appear in multiple episodes, even without the akumatization.
Yes.
A bunch of them.
So who is mine?
You can start this one.
Okay. I like Alia a lot. I think her ability to I love how she just doesn't care about her own danger. Like, she's just like, I gotta get the scoop, and then she'll just run in. She reminds me a lot of Lois Lane from the first Batman. Yes, Lois Lane apparently. I mean, I guess they're both DC characters, so it makes some sort of sense. But Lois Lane from Superman. I'm talking about the original 70s movie. And how Lois Lane will put herself in harm's way just to get the story. So, in my opinion, Alia is a little like that. She's very driven, which is pretty cool. And I also like how she's so supportive to Marinette. She's a real good friend. She definitely was playing wing woman, trying to get her and Adrian hook up. Yeah, and I don't know. I always like seeing people like that, like friends, in that nature. Who else do I like?
My main thing about her relationship with Marinette is how she hasn't found out that she's Ladybug yet.
Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, convenience, I guess.
I mean, like, it really bothers me. Like, come on, Marinette, Marinette, Adrian, figure out who the other person is already, please.
Yeah, right.
Please.
I guess it's painful because you're like, it's so easy. You don't even have to try that hard. Yeah, I guess that's like the big thing that like is the big plot hole. But I feel like the show is charismatic enough that you kind of buy it, in the same way that you buy that like, Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon don't know who each other are, even though they know each other in real life and hate each other. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, oh, sure, that's just how the world works, Of course they don't know each other, even though it's very obvious who they are. What other Japanese?
I mean, it's very obvious to us.
Has, blonde hair and pigtails, and also doesn't wear a mask. Like, duh. So.
Yeah. I mean, I know, and like, I do say this definitely knowing that, like, it's totally obvious to us, the viewer, but I'm certain, at the very least, if I was in that situation, I would be just completely oblivious.
Yeah.
I'm certain most people would be too.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one story about how the guy who played Superman, the most recent in like the DCEU was at one point in Times Square standing right underneath a billboard of him as Superman, just standing there, and no one recognized him. No one was like, "Oh, hey, aren't you gonna play Superman?" No one cared. So, food for thought, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you? Who's your favorite minor character?
Of like the major minor characters, definitely Alia's very fun character. Gets a little in over her head sometimes, but very fun character.
Yes.
If we're going like the really minor characters, I'd probably go with Mylene Haprel.
Milan's dad.
The mime's daughter, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She's the mime's daughter, and the first time like we really interacted with her was in the episode The Horrificator, where she was being the lead actress in a film project the students in her class were doing. And then I was like, oh wow, and like she was just like a soft, shy spoken girl. I'm like, why did she agree to be the lead? And then I was like, oh wait, her father's a few episodes later when the mime happened, I was like, oh, her father's a famous actor. She's trying to follow her father's footsteps. Oh god, that's so freaking adorable.
Yeah. And little details like that is really great, like you probably, like learning that, oh, her dad's an actor, so that's why she wants to do it. Like that sort of continuity is always really great in shows like this.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
That is she's just won my heart with that one. Yeah.
her devotion to her dad's craft.
Yeah.
Are there any characters you don't like? Curious.
Chloe.
Yeah, I mean,
Chloe's a brat.
She is a brat. She is a huge brat.
She is a huge spoiled brat.
Yeah, yeah, she's pretty universally hated amongst pretty much everyone who watches this show. Yeah, especially what I also find really interesting about Chloe is that Marinette and her are often compared in some episodes. Like I know in Eve Illustrator, compared Marinette to Chloe after she betrayed him. So I think it's interesting that the show is sort of putting them on equal terms in some ways, like showing the fact that, like, Marinette.
They're definitely direct foils. They're definitely direct foils.
Yeah, they are definitely foils of each other, and I think that's really interesting. Like it goes to show that even the people that we, sometimes you can be like a Chloe, even if you don't mean to. Yeah, and I definitely I really hope that we see Chloe, have more of a character. I'm really hoping that we see having her, because we kind of do see that she has the capacity to be at least somewhat nice, especially in Antibug, when she forgives Sabrina for what happened with them. So we can see that she has the capacity to do things that are good, but I'm hoping we see more of that, basically. For me,
what?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I feel so bad for Sabrina.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Sabrina.
She definitely gets thrown on the bus a lot. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Someday she'll get out of her shadow. Maybe, hopefully, I hope so.
Maybe not. We'll see.
For me, my least favorite minor character is Lila from Volpina. And the only reason why I don't like her too much is just because I feel like she's sort of like another Chloe. She's definitely more manipulative and sly than Chloe is. She definitely she's charismatic enough to get people to like her, even though she is a pathological liar. But I don't know. I just don't see much reason for her to exist at the moment. She's, she just really likes Adrian and wants to date him. Whoop-de-doo. So does everyone else in this universe. So many people who like him. I mean, I can't say I blame them. He is very nice and presumably a model, so very attractive too. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's sort of. Maybe I'll like her more if we see more of her later in the second season, and maybe she has more of a reason why she's such a liar, or we give her sort of more sympathy would be nice. So far she just feels very one note, and
Yes.
I don't know. Granted, she has only been in
I
one
agree with that,
episode,
yeah.
so I might be being a little too harsh, but
Mm.
we'll see. I so far at this moment in time, I don't really like her that much as a character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the dislike. I still just don't like Chloe's character more. Like, they do write her well for the part she's supposed to be, but still.
Yeah, no, she's...
Yeah.
You love to hate her, right? That's the term.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so that's our minor character talk. So let's get on to our favorite supervillains talk for season 1. So I knew this was coming. Why didn't I think of something? Alyssa, do you got an idea of who your
There are a lot of
favorite...
good ones. There are a lot of good ones. I think if we're going based purely on powers, I think I really like Illustrator's powers. I like the idea of like being able to draw whatever you want and just doing that. I also really liked oh, I'm forgetting the character that I liked.
Describe.
I think, well, I liked Volpina, if only because we got to see like the Fox powers for the first time. Like I said, I don't know if I really like Lila all that much, but I did like the idea of a superhero like backstabbing them, and I also kind of liked how Marinette or Ladybug, I guess, was being real suspicious and a little rude. Justifiably so. She's right to be suspicious that, oh, the superhero comes out of the middle of nowhere, okay. And you can definitely see the tension between them, but I think Volpina's design and her powers are really cool. Guitar Villain's really funny. I think that whole episode was just funny, just the idea that this one guy is just railing on like a Justin Bieber clone. Your music sucks. Like, fair. I couldn't really bring myself to like have any like sympathy for Mr. XY. I was like, if I should replace with Justin Bieber, like I'm fine with this situation. Let him just fall. That'd be fine. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. He spent way too long up on that board and hadn't fallen.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about that episode.
What about you? Now that I've given you some time to think about it.
My thing is I'm trying to separate my favorite character, the villains from the episodes a little bit, because like I would say I think I liked the gamer episode more than I liked the gamer villain.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. Like I mean, I thought I kind of liked. Yeah, I do agree with you. I think the episode itself is what I liked more. I think that the actual villain was kind of meh.
Yeah.
Although
more so, I think it was more so because it was based on a video game that we had little knowledge about. So all we had was whenever it came up in conversations, like, "Oh, this is from the video game," and we're like, "Oh, it is."
Yeah.
So. Like, we did see the gameplay, but we didn't, like, receive an in-depth telling of how the game works.
Right. Didn't you really like Eve Illustrator, too?
Eve Illustrator was really good with... Mostly because that was the first episode in the French Order that showed how independent the villains can be from Hawkmoth's will, I think.
Yes.
Because Illustrator was fine with not engaging any villainous activity, just as long as at the end of the day he kept up the bargain with Hawkmoth.
Right.
He just wanted the powers to impress Marinette and hurt Chloe, but Marinette was like, please don't hurt her. And he was like, all right, anything for you.
Yes.
Until she stabbed him in the back, despite that it was her job because she's Ladybug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked her for that. Darkblade, I think, was really cool. I think Darkblade was really cool.
Yep.
Especially with like the strength of his powers, to the fact that he was nearly able to turn all of France into his soldiers because he managed to plant his flag at the top of the castle.
Yeah, right.
That's
some powerful stuff right there.
Yeah. Simon Says was also really good. His power was really nice.
Yes, I agree. He was pretty cool. He seemed very like intelligent too with the way that he went about like tackling stuff. I think, or he made good use of his powers. I think.
Very much so. Yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Though I do have to give a special shout out to Mr. Pigeon.
Oh my god. Oh.
Okay,
God.
you are a man that managed to put all of Paris to halt because you were in control of pigeons. The most you can do to the heroes is dump them in bird crap, and then you can just have giant clumps of pigeons like surround your fists and use them as oversized boxing gloves and launch. It was like I think this might be the most ridiculous villain in this show.
Yeah, Mr. Pigeon.
Or at least this season.
Mr. Pigeon is wow. Yeah, that episode was really funny. I feel like that episode was more for laughs than like anything else.
Yes.
I especially love how he threatened to. He was like, "Give me your Miraculous, otherwise I will cover you in poop." Like, how threatening! Oh no.
Yep.
Not the bird poop.
Yeah.
No, he was really funny. And I like how they made a villain out of a very mundane aspect of a city. Like pigeons, you don't really think about as threatening, but I mean, if there's a swarm of pigeons coming after you, yeah, that is kind of threatening. So.
Yep.
Cute.
Yeah. So, I think we're good in talking about some of the preferred villains. So let's go talking about our favorite episodes.
Okay. Why don't you start? Because I started last time.
Yes, you did. I brought it up before. The Gamer was a really good episode, probably mostly for its ridiculous amount of video game references.
Yeah.
Hadouken!
Oh my god, they totally did a Street Fighter 2 homage in that.
Yeah,
and that was great.
Yeah, and just the whole like stereotypical 2D fighting game layout for the big final battle was great.
Yeah,
I'd say. Roger Cop was also just good just because of how much of a ripoff of RoboCop it was.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, the Illustrator episode was good as well because the same reasons why I like the Illustrator character. Though I do think his name is a little misleading because he is one of the least evil villains, even though evil is in his name.
Yeah.
You go.
Okay.
You say something good.
So,
I mean, okay. Also, sorry. Also, absolutely the 2-part origin story.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, because that was where I was getting most of my lore from. And oh my goodness, so much good lore.
Yep. Yeah.
So much good backstory. And it was very neat seeing like the origin of the characters after
Mhm.
we got introduced to them.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. Which I just find more interesting because I think a few things in that episode would have gone differently.
Mhm.
If those were actually the first two episodes, mostly Marinette and Adrian,
Mhm.
with Marinette starting to be in love with Adrian, I think would have played out differently if that was the actual start of the
Mhm.
series. But it was very good for where it came, and I loved what they did with those two in that episode.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. One of my favorite episodes is Simon Says, and the reason why I really like this episode is that we get, this is the one episode where we get a full, huge amount of big clues as to who Hawkmoth might be, and if those clues work out, then it really shows how like um how much Hawkmoth plans in advance. Like
Mm-hmm.
first he akumatizes. First he gets the person. Uh, he appears on the show. And then he yells at Simon Says or whoever. I don't remember the magician's name, but he yells at him like, "Don't control."
His name was Simon.
Oh, true. Okay. So he's like, "Don't, you can't control me," and then flicks off, and then that's the perfect setup for creating a villain because he just got him angry. And it's also a pretty risky move too, because then he's the target of the anger, but then that also lets him snoop around and get a closer look at Ladybug and Cat Noir.
Who's
What?
who's the target of the anger? And why is that risky?
Well, so my theory as of season 1, and obviously, like I said, we're not talking about season 2 here at all, is that Gabriel Agreste is Hawkmoth. And that's mostly based on what we see in Simon Says, in that, like, we have Gabriel Agreste is the target of the Simon Says anger because he shut him down during the during a show, and then Hawkmoth talks about how this is risky, but it gives me an idea and stuff like that, and then later on Gabriel Agreste is acting all shifty and being all like, Ladybug, I think your earrings look real nice. Which is such an odd thing to say. Like, why would you be saying that? I wonder.
Yeah.
So you have that happening. But if you think about it from the perspective of a guy who's trying to get the Miraculous, it is a risky move, but it's a pretty smart one too, because not only does he have Ladybug and Cat Noir in the same location, but he also without tipping them off, can maybe steal them. You know what I mean? Which is a pretty cool thing, which is pretty interesting. And it's really, and like I said, obviously assuming that Gabriel Agreste actually is Hawkmoth, it really shows his ability to like be cunning and manipulative, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I really hope that that's what is the case in season 2. I'd be pretty upset if it wasn't.
Yeah.
To be honest, but
yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I very early on I was getting when I was watching the season, I was like very much to Alyssa, like, is it Gabriel that's Hawkmoth? And she's like, I don't know. We don't know.
No.
And by Simon Says is like, if it's not Gabriel, I'm going to scream.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. Like, I'm just like, it just makes a lot of sense if that's the case. And like I said, It's also if that turns out to be true, we now actually have an episode that shows us, the lengths that Hawkmoth's willing to take in order to get the Miraculous, which I think is really cool. So that's why Simon Says, and also one of the reasons why Simon Says is one of my favorite episodes is that we have a lot of good interactions between Ladybug and Cat Noir. We have Ladybug interacting with him with him as Adrian, and they're both like real flustered, and it's so cute. They're just like, I don't know what to do. It's my crush. And oh man. So there's that too.
Yes.
And I also really like the way that Cat Noir interacts with his father, Gabriel. You know, him being all like, you know, you gotta hide. There's this supervillain coming after you. It's not safe. And then like Gabriel's being all like, I'm fine. You don't need to tell me what to do. And he's just like, no, listen to me. Like, stop listening to anything. Tell me what to do. And then you know, Gabriel's like, you remind me of someone. And then you know, Adrian's like, oh dang. So that I thought was really interesting. I think it's really cool to see him kind of get angry at his father. Because typically we've only really seen Adrian get kind of resigned about his father. You know, kind of be like, of course he's like this. You know, he obviously he's upset. But I don't think this is the first time I think we've ever seen him like be actively angry about his father, which I think is interesting. So yeah, that's why it's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think we're good with episodes. So let's go on to favorite moments.
Okay.
All right. So Alyssa, do you have a favorite moment of season 1?
I'm not sure. I really like. I'm trying to think. I think I really liked the umbrella scene at the end of the Origins Part 2, where Adrian gives Marinette his umbrella. I thought that was really cute. I thought that they did a lot of show don't tell kind of scenario there. You know, like you can kind of see the moment where Marinette's like, wow, this guy might not be bad after all. You know, and I think that was a really great, well constructed scene. You know. And I also really liked how you can tell that Adrian really appreciates that, you know, Marinette might be a friend. And, oh man, it's so nice to see a character, especially a male character, who's like, oh man, a female, I have a friend who's a female, but she's a friend, and I really like that. Like, awesome. I don't know. That scene was really great. I think it was probably one of the best scenes in the show, because it really like I said, you didn't really there wasn't really a lot of things that were said between them, but you can kind of just tell the emotions that were happening. I don't know. I really like that.
Yeah. For me, my favorite moment. I would probably have to go with
you can do it. I believe in you.
I think I would have to go with the moment with in Simon Says between Adrian and his father towards the end of the episode, where you actually see a father-son interaction between them, and then the wait. I never noticed that ring before.
Yeah, that is a really cool moment. I think it's really great to see, because I guess up until that point, Gabriel has been really standoffish towards Adrian, and I think this was the first time where we actually saw him be, you know, like, hey, I love you. I might actually care that you're my son. Which is nice. And you can definitely tell, I think, how much Adrian wants his father to love him and support him and show that he cares. Which is, yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And now, that's our moments. So now let's move on to talking about the technical stuff of this series. The animation, setting, music, and all that good stuff.
So I don't know if I mentioned this. I might have mentioned it before. This show is very much based set in Paris. And I think it's really great how French this show is. Like it's very much unabashedly proud of where it comes from, which I'm very happy about.
Mm-hmm.
I like how, the Eiffel Tower is featured in a lot of it. I like how there's always macaroons and like croissants. I mean, there's a mime villain, which mimes are stereotypically French. It feels.
Yep.
I think I like how how it feels as like a show that sort of is entrenched in its setting, and I like that a lot. The animation I think is pretty good. I've definitely seen worse CGI, but I think some of the animation almost kind of reminds me of early Ruby in some ways. I think it's definitely more crisp than early Ruby, but because it has more money behind it, but it definitely still feels a little low budget in some respects. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I feel it'd be like season 2.
Yeah. I think that's a good comparison.
I think it's about like season 2 Ruby with full animation studio behind it. That's where I put that. Speaking of that, I do want to make a mention about a connection I made between Cat Noir and someone. It'd been bothering me for a little bit that like Cat Noir feels like another character I know, and then I realized that he's basically like a cat version of Sun Wukong from Ruby. He's got a staff, he's got the tail, he's got the cocky personality, he's got the same hair even. Come on.
Yeah, that's great. All we need is just for him to just have a sidekick who's afraid of water, and we're good. Yep. we're set.
Yes.
Yeah.
But back to the technical stuff. Yeah, I definitely see what you're coming on with that. The show does have its moments of weakness, but it also has its moments of strength. A moment you love to point out was like how sometimes in the transformation sequences there would actually be like minor differences in their facial expressions depending upon the scenario.
Yeah.
And I think one of the earliest ones was the bubbler, where she, like, during the transformation sequence, Marionette looked visibly upset, rather than her smiley self that is not normally used in the transformation sequences.
Yeah, and I think that was really a good touch. That kind of attention to detail is always really nice. And I also think that I really like the character designs. I think there's a lot of different, like, especially with the class. Like the minor characters, all of them are like different looking. You can't really confuse one for the other, which I think is really great. There are a lot of background clones, but I mean, like the major minor characters are all very unique in their design, and I like that. And they're all pretty different character. They have different character traits, which is also really great.
Yes, absolutely. The setting is just perfect for the show. They do everything right with making sure it is in Paris. But I mean, like, that's their home country. And of course, as it is also their home country, like, they know what is typical for their country, but also don't go overboard with everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
With it being too French, because like it is their culture. It's kind of just a second nature, so you don't have to like emphasize, oh, we're in France. Oh, we're in France. I mean, they're right in Paris, so you gotta see the Eiffel Tower every now and again.
Yeah.
And a couple of their famous French landmarks, the Louvre. There's an episode where the Mona Lisa is stolen. But I mean, even American cartoons that aren't set in France are like, oh no, the Mona Lisa's been stolen. What are we going to do?
Yep. They also have I think the only one that we might have not seen, or big French monument that we haven't seen yet, I think was mentioned, was Notre Dame. I don't think we've seen Notre Dame yet in like a big way.
Yeah.
Unless it was in there and I just forgot.
It hasn't played a central part of anything.
Yeah.
At the very least. Yeah. Music's not like the intro music is really the intro song is really good, but I don't like. I feel like the music during the show like is pretty on theme, but is a bit generic because it is a cartoon show.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of it is more
Yeah.
variations of the main theme, which is a little disappointing. I think they could probably do more to make the soundtrack a bit better. But I don't think the soundtrack necessarily takes away from anything.
Yes.
I do think it's a little bit lackluster. If you watched our Voltron episode,
Okay.
I think I feel the same way about this soundtrack as I did with Voltron. Although I do think that the opening theme is a lot better than Voltron's.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's got lyrics you can sing to, so.
Yeah, and I also think the tune is a little more catchy and upbeat, and it matches the show a little better. It doesn't feel as generic, in my opinion. But that might be just more taste than personal taste than anything else.
Okay. You got any other technical stuff you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of, unless you do.
Okay. Nope, not for me.
Oh, no, there's one thing.
Before...
This show has a lot of repeated animation. Like, the transformation sequences are the same. There are some scenes that always happen. Like, there's always a scene where, for the most part, where Hawkmoth, corrupts a butterfly. There's always a scene where he yells, "I'll get you next time," There's always a scene where Ladybug purifies the Akuma. So there's a lot of repeated animation, and their special attacks are also repeats. So
stock animation, yeah. What are you going?
Yeah, I mean, like it's that's sort of like the tone they're going for. They're going for that Sailor Moon route,
Yes.
The repeating animations to save on cost and also to serve that formula. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it detracts from it. I think it just feels like a Saturday morning cartoon in that sense, that those like that repeat familiarity.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. So now is there anything else you have to add?
Nope.
Or can I move on to the last thing I want to talk about before we start wrapping this up? Expectations for season 2.
Okay. So, this is going to be hard because we've both seen some of season 2. What can I say that I'm expecting without letting people know what I already know?
Yeah. I mean, I have one big one.
Sure.
I want to see Cat Noir and Ladybug know who each other are.
Same.
That's all I want.
Same. I think it would be really interesting. Put it this way, even like, because I don't know, like how long they're gonna play that out. I'm really hoping that at some point they, get together. But I also don't know if it'll happen season 2. I feel like they don't want to play that card yet. At least that's the feeling that I have. But I do definitely want to see them, like... I don't know if I necessarily want them to know the full truth, but I definitely think I want to see them, like, one of them find out, but just not tell the other person or something, some sort of change in their relationship that makes them that makes things more interesting. That would be nice. But yeah, I do also want to see them come together, because I think navigating a relationship while also being superhero partners would also be really great. And I think that could add a lot of cool things too.
Yes, I think, though, to counter your point, I think that would probably be a good thing to see for the end of season 2. I think the end of season 2 would be a good place. I don't want I unless they did like the start of season 3. But I think end of season 2 is really where it would be great.
To have a full reveal of both of them, who they are.
That's what I was thinking, but then you brought up the idea of one of them figuring out, and then maybe we can tie that over into the season 3 opener, and then the other one figures out at that point.
Yeah.
But I really want to know that. Though I did think of another thing. I want to figure out all of the other miraculous people.
Yeah. So like,
I want to see people have the other miraculouses.
I do too. I definitely want to see. I mean, we already know that Master Fu has it, so I want to see if it'd be cool if he transforms at some point. And I also definitely want to see the other 3 that we know exist come into play. That'd be really nice having multiple superheroes running around, especially if that pairs along with if Hawkmoth gets more powerful somehow or starts getting the ability to have 2 Akumas at once or something crazy like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe he starts. I have no idea. But I think that if the stakes get bigger in season 2, then I think it would be cool to see superheroes come in to help with those stakes. That would be really great. And I'm also curious to see if all of the Miraculouses that we haven't seen yet are going to be used by heroes or villains. Like there's also the possibility that one of them or all of them even could be used for evil, which would be interesting. I have a feeling they probably won't have like too many of them do that, but I feel like it would be really cool. Cool to see them see that happen, because I mean Hawkmoth's a villain and he's a miraculous user, so I think that sets a precedence that there could be like different like that sets a precedence that the Miraculouses that we haven't seen yet could also be villains or could be used for villainous purposes.
Yeah.
Or they could all just
you're right.
Also all just be heroes. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. Is my point. Yeah.
Yeah. You got any other points
for like what I expect from season 2?
Yes.
I want to see. I want to have them. I don't know if this is going to happen season 2, but I definitely want to see them leave Paris and go somewhere else. I know some of the comics that have come out have had Ladybug and Cat Noir in New York City, and if they were to animate that, I'd be so psyched because I live near New York City, and I would love to see New York City. I love whenever I see a place I've been like on the screen because that's always fun. And I would love to see them tackle New York City, and I'd love to see how Ladybug and Cat Noir interact with the culture of New York City. What kind of villains would show up in New York City? Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Or other places. Like I definitely want the show to branch out from locations, or maybe even other places in France too. Like maybe they take a trip to. Trying to think of another French city that's not Paris. Cologne? Or is that in Germany? Might be in Germany. I don't know. Yeah, but maybe go to the French countryside instead of in the cities. Maybe go to the Pyrenees Mountains. Like, that's towards the border with Spain. Go somewhere else in Europe.
Yeah.
Go to London. Or Italy. I mean, I read on the wiki that Lila is Italian, so that would be cool. Go to Italy. Maybe.
Oh.
You can take a train there when you're in Europe. It's just a very short train ride.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'd be really interested in seeing that. I also think I also really want to see some character development for Adrian, actually. Like I said before when I was talking about my favorite characters, at the moment I feel like Adrian's a little too perfect. Granted, the show is from Marinette's perspective, so obviously Marinette kind of sees him as this perfect guy, and so therefore the audience sees him as a perfect guy. But we know he's flawed. We know he's capable of being petty and selfish and cocky because he's also Cat Noir. And I kind of want there to be a moment where Marinette sees something unsavory in Adrian. whether it's like I want Adrian to make a mistake, or something that he does something that's wrong, and then Marinette has to confront the fact that her crush isn't a perfect person, that he's flawed. I want to see that, because I think at this point Adrian is perfect. He doesn't really have that many flaws that people notice. You know, and I want to see that Cat Noir flaw aspect of him worm his way into his normal personality, and then for Marinette to react to that. Yep. So those are my expectations for season 2, and I hope they are met.
And I think I'm good with my predictions for season 2. So, do you have any final points you'd like to make about this show before we wrap up here?
It's really fun. It's just a lighthearted, fun little adventure that also has some things for you to chew on if you want to chew on some things. But it also isn't that complex that it gets you lost. I don't know. It has that sort of Saturday morning cartoon feel to it that I think you don't really see. That I haven't really watched a lot of in recent years. So I'm glad to see something that sort of harkens back to the Saturday morning cartoon feel, and has that. And it's also from a different place. Like, I don't watch many French related things, so that's always good. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it a lot. And I hope that some of you watching at home enjoy it too, or will enjoy it too if you decide to pick it up.
Yes. If you haven't seen it, I as always, I do hope that you have seen what we are talking about before you listen to this podcast. But if you haven't, it is, again, all season 1 is all on Netflix, and season 2 will be coming to Netflix very shortly, before the end of the year, at the very least.
Yes.
We can't guarantee more than that, but definitely before the end of the year. And I would definitely recommend that you watch it. It is a wonderfully nice show. It is a good show. It's quite a lot of fun. Great character interaction. Very interesting setting. Nice lore. Very nice lore for what it is. Yeah. But I think that's all we both have to say on this. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SoundJack426. Also, please consider donating on my Patreon page to help support the channel. All the links will be in the description below. Thanks for tuning in. This is SoundJack and Alyssa signing off.